when you're making a decision to level up, the people that are already up or the people that want to level up with you, they're going to migrate to you. Remember, God created life to flow. You've never seen a bird struggle to fly unless its wings was clapped. Welcome to the third quarter, a podcast that is dedicated to leaving the past behind so we can step into a brighter future in simple, easy, small, daily changes. I am your host, Ace, and I am blessed to bring you today's episode all about it is okay to leave people behind. Yeah, I said it. So get that into your spirit, change your frown, change your face. I said it. Okay, I don't want to see that stank face. It is okay to leave people behind. You don't owe people anything. But before we get into the episode, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the pod so you're always notified whenever a new episode drops. And if you haven't rated us 5 stars yet, what are you waiting on? Like, you late. Like, join the party. Take your phone out, click 5 stars, hit send, and join the party. And remember, I'm also reading reviews on the podcast. So if you leave a nice review, it might get read on one of the episodes. How cool is that? Now let's dive into the episode. Everyone is not meant to go with you. Okay. Now this entire episode, I want you to think of yourself as a private jet, a private plane. Okay. I want you to think of yourself as a private plane. So I was doing some research for the pod and I was looking up airplanes for some odd reason. And what I found is that the majority of the fuel that is used for a plane, whether it's a commercial plane or a private plane, the majority of the fuel that's used on the flight is used on the takeoff, right? It's used to go down the runway, take off in the air, go through the clouds, go through all the turbulence, and then get to a place of what's called a cruising altitude. So whether you're on a 2-hour flight or a 6-hour flight, the majority of the fuel is used in the first 30 seconds to minute of the flight. And I found that very interesting because it then made sense to me why they're so adamant about luggage and weight and, hey, we got to put these bags in, we're going to check these bags in. Some of these bags can't go on the flight. If you want your bag checked in, bring your bag here. And the reason is because the heavier the plane weighs, the harder it is to take off. And if it's harder to take off, that means it's going to burn more fuel. If it's going to burn more fuel, that means it may not have enough fuel to get to the destination. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down now. Okay? So when you look at it from a commercial plane standpoint, whether it's Delta Airlines, shout out, whether it's United, American, what have you, JetBlue, when you book a ticket, you don't have any say-so on who the other passengers are. You don't have a say-so of the weight. You don't have a say-so of the luggage that people bring. You don't have a say-so of if you're going to have room in the overhead storage. You don't have say-so in that because it's not your plane. And when you don't know where you're going and you're kind of just going through life, you're kind of like a passenger in a commercial flight. You're responding and reacting to everything that's happening around you. You don't have any control here. But when you're a private plane and it's your plane, the cool part is private planes are smaller for the most part than most commercial flights. What does that mean? You can't have as many passengers because there's not as many seats. Okay, that's interesting. And if the planes are smaller, what does that also mean? Well, it cannot carry as much weight or have as much luggage. Okay, that's interesting. I think you're understanding where I'm going here. When you are a private plane and it's your flight, the biggest difference between a private plane and a commercial plane is you get to determine who comes on the plane with you. You determine the passengers. You determine the luggage. You determine everything. And so when you look at your life like being a private plane, and you're like, yo, this is what I want out of life. This is where I'm going. This is where I want to go. This is how I want to do it. These are the kind of people I need to have in my life. You start to look at yourself as someone that wants to get rid of excess weight. Now, the hardest part about growth is discerning who needs to be in your life in this season and who does not. When you are someone that's like me, and you're listening to this podcast and you have a good heart and you mean well and you love people and you just want people to be the best versions of themselves. One of the most challenging things for you to do is to not just cut people off, but to remove yourself from people in the season. Because when you're a people pleaser or you are always putting everyone else's wants, needs, and concerns over yours, it's hard for you to say, hey, I'm on a private plane now, and some of y'all ain't going to be able to go on with your boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, this is where I'm headed, and this plane has a certain weight requirement. I can't have baggage with me. So I can only have people that truly want to go where I'm going. This plane from Detroit is going to LA. If you want to go to Miami, don't come on this flight, because all you're going to do is complain about where we're at, how long's the flight going to be, what we going to eat. I don't want that. And so when you're in a season of life and you're growing and you're changing and you're transcending, you're migrating from a commercial flight to a private plane where you're starting to be more particular on who's on board with you. Because remember, if the majority of the fuel is being used on takeoff, that should let you know that the most important part of the flight is the takeoff. It's who you have with you. It's the amount of luggage and baggage you have in your life. If you are being weighed down by people and their gossip and their drama and their inability to want to change, you are going to be so depleted on your takeoff that you will never get to a cruising altitude. I'm trying to put you on game right now. You are going to have to make a decision and discern who should be with you in this particular season of your life, because that's going to determine how you take off on your flight. You want to be as light as possible. And when you're bringing in people and you're squeezing people in because you don't want to leave people behind, and you feel like you owe this person because this person paid for your lunch when you was in the 5th grade and they bought you Flamin' Hot Cheetos and now you feel like you still owe them, you are going to have an uncomfortable, drama-filled flight. And you're going to have so much resentment, and you are going to be pissed. And the one thing you don't want to do on your route to purpose is to not have peace. You see, when you're on a commercial flight, you got babies, you got dogs, you got people that talk loud, that want everyone to know that they doing business. You got people that's laughing at stuff that's not funny. You got kids asking questions. You know what I mean? Like, you just got a lot of stuff happening. There's no peace. All you want to do is just sleep, put your headphones on, and watch a movie, and I cannot wait to get there. But when you're on a private flight and you control everything, it's peaceful. You have ultimate leg room. You got food on there that's actually good. You have people that you really want to have on there, so you're having real good conversations. You playing cards. You cracking jokes, because everyone that's on that flight is supposed to be on that flight. It's a lighter flight, not just from a sense of the plane being lighter, but your spirit is lighter. So in this season, in this 3rd quarter season of your life, you really have got to pay attention to who do you have in your immediate circle of influence. Who are you texting? Who are you calling? Who's coming over? Whose houses are you going over? Who are you going to dinner with? Who are you getting coffee with? Who are you spending the majority of your time with? And ask yourself, is this person supposed to be on my private flight, or is this a commercial flight person? Like, you really got to be honest about that. Is this person private or are they commercial? Because if they're commercial, then you might have to reposition where this person is in your life in this particular season. It doesn't mean you got to cut them off. It doesn't mean they're toxic. It just means that in this season, you can only have private playing people that you spend the majority of your time with. And in this season, the people that are meant to be on the commercial flight, you keep in contact that is safe and best for you. But you're not contacting by obligation. You're not feeling like it's a necessity. You're not responding to all the text messages and all the calls. You're drawing a line in the sand to say, hey, this person that I was, I'm no longer this person in this particular season. I have to go over here. And here's the interesting thing. The people that are meant to be on that flight will migrate to you. You won't have to do any convincing. You won't have to do any, like you're trying to soften it. You're walking on eggshells. Like, no. When you're making a decision to level up, the people that are already up or the people that want to level up with you, they're going to migrate to you. Remember, God created life to flow. You've never seen a bird struggle to fly unless its wings was clapped. You've never seen a fish struggle in the ocean to swim unless it was injured. You've never seen a lion struggle to be a lion. A flower doesn't struggle to blossom unless it's not in its proper environment. But God has designed the universe to flow organically if everything is in its proper alignment in the proper season. Human beings are the only ones that go against the grain. We're like, we're going to let it be summer all year round. No. When you're in alignment, things flow naturally. You don't need to persuade. You don't need to convince. You don't need to do any of that. The right people are just going to flow naturally in the direction that you're going. And you're going to see who needs to be on your flight and who doesn't by who's flowing naturally to you and who's providing, turbulence in your current. Who's going against it? Who's going against the stream? That's why alignment is so important, because when you're aligned in your beliefs, you're aligned in who you are, you're aligned in what you want to do, you're entering what's called a flow state. And when you're in that flow, your awareness of what you're doing, your awareness of who's around you is heightened. And you only want to be surrounded with people that are headed in the same direction and flowing in the same place as you. The last thing you want to do when you're in a flow, right? Think of it like this. When you're in a stream of water and you're in the flow, you're going with the current, you don't have to swim. It just naturally takes you forward. The strain is when you're trying to swim the opposite way when the flow is going a different way. You don't get tired when you're in the flow. You get tired when you're going against the flow. Wow. I'm going to take a sip of this real quick. Hold on a second, because that was a bar. That was a bar. The only time you get tired and drained is when you're going against the flow. And when you have people in your life that aren't flowing with you, you have to constantly go against the flow to check on them, to see if they're okay. Hey, what are they talking about? What's the drama? What's the gossip today? You're always in the past. You're swimming backwards. That's draining. When you just stand in water and the water is naturally flowing forward, you just naturally go forward. You don't have to do any work. That's how God designed it. He didn't just design water that way. He designed your calling and purpose that way. When you get in the alignment, the waters of your alignment, when you're set foot in that, the current will naturally take you where you're supposed to go. The challenge is, are we stopping it? Are we aiding in the progress of going forward? Or are we going backwards because we don't want to leave people behind, because we feel guilty, because we're trying to save everybody, because we're a people pleaser? That's what drains the energy, is going outside of the flow. So as you're listening to this, I want you to think about when you're in your flow, like when you are in the stream of the water that's naturally pushing you forward, Do you find yourself always swimming backwards, checking on people, making sure they're okay all the time, answering their text messages, answering their call? Like you're constantly going back to check on people. You're constantly going back to see if they're okay. You're constantly going back to save them from something that they sabotage themselves with. Because if you are, your plane is never going to reach a cruising altitude. You're always going to be at the takeoff. Because as soon as you start to take off, the plane has to come right back down because you ran out of fuel. So, in this particular season, it is imperative for you to recognize who you need to have at your takeoff. And I'm giving you permission to leave people behind. Because some people need to be left behind. And when you reach your destination, you can come back with more resources. But you got to be willing to leave your current place so you can get more resources to help people that don't want to use their resourcefulness. But you got to get out. You have to step into the flow of your alignment and let it take you where it's supposed to go. And through that journey, you're going to uncover wisdom and gems and relationships. Your partner, if you're single right now, even if you're in a relationship, your partner that is best for you is in the flow of your alignment. They're somewhere up the stream. They're not back. They're somewhere up the stream. And they're minding their own business, doing their thing in their flow. And as time continues to go on and your flow starts to get side by side, you guys will organically meet, organically talk, organically date, and live happily ever after. Now, I also want to be clear. There are going to be people in your life that you're going to have to leave behind, and you might have to leave them there for good. Even when you do reach your destination and you want to come back and help people, you got to remember it's not your job to save anybody. You are not the savior. It is not your job to go back and to save. You can offer help. You can offer assistance. You can offer advice, wisdom. But you cannot save anybody that does not want to be saved. And you might have some people in your life now that feel like you are their life raft. And they need you in order to survive. Carrying that weight, carrying that duty where you feel like you're obligated to save someone and to be someone's life raft, that is not your cross to carry. You have to free yourself of the burden of carrying everybody's cross when they don't want to carry it. Because you're going to look up one day and you're not going to be able to carry yours, and you need to put it down for a sec, and you're going to look around and there's no one there to help carry yours. Matter of fact, they're sitting there waiting for you to get up so you can carry your cross and theirs. So this private plane that you're on, you have to be super specific, and you have to have extreme discernment to know exactly who is going to be on your takeoff so you can get to a sustainable cruising altitude towards your destiny. The people that you have right now is either going to make or break your dreams. Full freaking stop. The most important decision that you can make is who you spend your time with. Because a declaration of who you spend your time with is also a declaration of who you're not spending your time with. You have people in your life right now that are taking the position of someone that actually can add value to you. I know it's challenging, I know it's tough, and I know it could be heartbreaking to leave people behind, but You have to allow people to fight their own battles. You have to allow people to go on their own journey, because you could be the very reason, even in your good-heartedness, even when you believe you're doing the right thing, you could be preventing them from growing because you are always their lifeline. The only way for people to know how to swim is they got to step in the waters themselves and figure it out. And it's in the figuring out that is when you're going to have people to come help you. But you're saving people before they even start to drown. You're holding people afloat without really even knowing if they can swim or not. You're just taking it upon yourself to get them across the ocean, get them across to the other side of the pool, because you're assuming that they can't swim because they're presenting themselves as if they can't. Because it's easier for you to carry them than for them to actually put the work to get to that side themselves. You have to allow people to drown. They'll be just fine. They will figure it out. But this is your journey. Your purpose was given to you before the friendships and the relationships that you chose to have in your life. And I promise you, the more that you pursue purpose and you pursue your destiny, you will know who needs to be on your private plane and who does not. And once you get to that place, I guarantee you, yes, you will have some turbulence on your ride. Yes, you will have weathers that are not ideal. But one thing that's for certain is that you will never not have peace on your flight. I love you so much. I hope this episode blessed you. If anyone came to mind, feel free to share it. Remember to rate this podcast 5 stars, leave a kind review, because I will be reading reviews on podcasts in the future. I love you so much. Be safe, be blessed, and remember, your third quarter moment starts right now.